Ourselves building. With the assistance of Communications Department and the Information Technology Department, this meeting is live streamed on the Ethics Board's website, and we are recording it for future reference. There is a delay with online communications. We should be patient. As always, we thank those members of the City of Tallahassee for their support. For those attending the meeting online, please make sure your microphone is muted. Last week, we asked the public to make a request by email to ethics@talgov.com by 1 p.m. on the day of the meeting if they wish to speak online on the agenda or non-agenda items. Those who have submitted their names will be given a chance to speak as scheduled. While the meeting is in progress, please do not speak during the board's discussion. We have set aside 2 places where the public can speak on the agenda. For those of you who wish to make a public comment, please complete a speaker request form and forward it to the administrative specialist, Ms. Tasker Leverson Green. Public speakers will be given 3 minutes in accordance to the board's bylaws. This time, please rise for Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Tasker, please call roll.
Carlos Ray,
Present.
Kirsten Costa. Here. Patrick Kelly.
Here.
Rika Calhoun. Adam Commissar.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Tasker. Did everybody receive the minutes for the October 17th, 2023 meeting?
Yes.
Any edits or comments on the minutes? If none, I would accept a motion at this time to accept the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Public comments on agenda items. Do we have any?
No.
Moving on then. Ethics Office report, Mr. Dwight.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to note that my summary is not even a quarter of a page, but what John just did was a full page. During this period, we responded to ethics complaints, delivered new employee ethics training, and coordinated the November Ethics Board meeting, which included the executive session. We gave the 2023 annual report at the city commission meeting, and I sent you all links to that. We gave a full report. We briefed city commission members on whistleblower protection recommendation, and we'll talk about that in the agenda item. And we prepared the commission agenda. We received and assisted a new board member, and I'm sorry to report that as he was about to attend this meeting, early this morning, we determined that he is not eligible. And this was FSU's appointee. He lives in the county tax area rather than the city of Tallahassee. So he's essentially a county resident as far as voting is concerned. And so I did explain to him, I told him that we are disappointed because he's attorney, and I said with his background, it would have been good, because one of my concerns sometimes is that our board members not take an activist role. And I pointed that out so that when he goes back, they can assure us of not giving us somebody who's not going to stay to our role. So he's going to go back and help get somebody to replace him.
And that was from the FAMU?
FSU.
And the city hasn't appointed a new person yet?
No, I gave them until February since we'll be out
Okay.
and they posted it. They're doing applications and the whole process. So they should, by the time we don't have a meeting in January. So by the time we come back in February, they should have somebody in place.
We have a December meeting?
We have a December meeting. Yes. I think it's the day after my birthday. So.
Is that a hint?
Yeah.
Right.
I think it was his.
It's explicit, got it.
I don't know, free taco.
So on Tuesday we're covered, yeah.
He likes velvet cake.
He's right. But that will, and just as a note, because I was gonna say that in the update, but at that meeting, in December, that's when we do our annual election for chair and vice chair. Um, and, from what I understand, the chair will be stepping down to give someone else an opportunity. And I just remind, so you can think about it between now and next month. That person is very important because we meet regularly. If something comes up, we talk about it. And I actually John and I get guidance from the chair. We don't just show up and get a lot of guidance. We talk things through. We talk each other off the ledge. When John is upset an attorney, we talk him off the ledge. We all have our moments when we have to talk each other down off the ledge.
So keep that in mind every week. Please, you gotta talk to these guys, at least an hour and a half. That's part of the blessing and the burden of this position.
Okay, for our budget, it's the start of the new year, so what you're looking at now, it started in October, so generally you're looking at allocations and, they actually upped our budget a little bit from last year. For whatever reason, but we're thanking for it. So we're starting off, at the end of last fiscal year, we ended up with 70-some thousand, so we could be in good shape. I think we should buy the little house next door and have our meetings over there. The issue tracker on 10/11/2023 have called to complain that he had trouble logging into unemployment. He said the system would not let you log in if you can't remember your email password. It's been going on for 2 years. The caller didn't leave any information, so I couldn't assist him. Couldn't call him back. That was on the hotline. So I recommend closing that. Then there was a caller, and I was tempted not to list this one because if you listen to it, it sounds like a spoof. He talks about Jimmy Dean and Joe Namath. And
It was a long call. You haven't listened to that for like 15 minutes. Like this is
Yes,
and then
yes.
stop.
yes, and near the end of the call, he says, "I'm talking on my brother's phone, so you can't call me back." So it really sounded like a spoof, but it was on the hotline, so I'm listening. But that one should be closed. 11/23, see employee complain about workplace violence concerning subordinate mistreatment by a supervisor. I passed that on to diversity and inclusion. Eventually, I heard from both diversity and inclusion and from HR that it was being investigated. And so that's been referred and I recommend closing that. 10/30, caller complained that a local store ruined her car engine. That was line. And I gave her the number for Division of Consumer Services. And so I recommend closing that. So I recommend closing all of these, Mr. Chair.
So moved. Motion, second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Moving on to whistleblower complaints. Agenda item number 8, and that's all me. Guessing this is chair. So last week we were given the opportunity, we being the ethics officer and myself, to speak to the commission on, first of all, Mr. Floyd presented our annual report. Did a great job there. He reviewed everything we were working on, the advisory opinions and the steps, what we've done this past year. I was then given the opportunity to discuss our position on whistleblower complaints. And it's a position we've had for several years now, I think going 2 or 3 years, at least since I've been on this board. And the issue we're trying to have the city address is the administrative process of addressing whistleblower complaints that are brought against the elected officials and their staff. Currently, the Inspector General, who is a city, created by city ordinance, has the authority to investigate complaints against everyone, covered individuals and individuals within the city, but does not have the authority to review any complaints against the elected officials or their staff. So he cannot afford accept whistleblower complaints or process whistleblower complaints against those entities. we've always been in a position that the ethics board is an entity, a local entity that can process ethics, whistleblower complaints against the city and their elected and their staff. We have been asking the city to clarify this to the city and their employees of the role we play in those ethics and those complaints and the ability for us to afford whistleblower protection to them. We have been trying to work with them in every way possible, believing that this can be done through an ordinance. Their position was that it could be done through referendum. We went through to seek an opinion outside the city, to seek it through the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General sought the advice of the city attorney and the city of whether or not they want an opinion issued by the Attorney General's office. They said no, so that avenue was cut off. If their position was of a referendum, we were seeking then the opportunity for them to consider to have this as a referendum, an amendment to their charter and the upcoming referendum in 2024. They're currently in the process of establishing an advisory board to make recommendations to the commission on potential amendments to the charter. When I asked them to consider this as a potential to amend the charter or to include a referendum, this item on the commission agenda, city commission agenda, was not an action item. So they didn't think it was necessary for them to take an action at the time. And there was no discussion of them considering this going forward. Commissioner Matlaw did say he wanted to look into it, but he modeled it a little bit by saying he can see both sides of the argument. I don't know what both sides of the argument he was talking about there because it didn't clarify what he meant by that. At the end, they were still in the same spot we were before. No clarification, no clear, concise message from the city commission on whistleblower complaints that are brought, administrative process that are brought against the staff and the city elected officials. At this time, I don't foresee this changing in the near future. I don't see them considering this a charter amendment. It will be my position, and I know this is an agenda item number 8. It's just informational, but I want in the next meeting to consider us taking the position that we do currently with the blueprint matter. Right now, there's some that believe that elected city officials, when they serve on blueprint, are not under our jurisdiction. That's some have taken the positions, especially the city attorney. We believe they currently are under our jurisdiction because they are serving in the capacity solely because they are a city commissioner. So any complaint that brought against a city commissioner while serving on blueprint will be within our jurisdiction. I believe we should take a similar stance in this situation, that we would process any complaint brought against a city official, an elected official, and afford whistleblower protection in a similar manner. That we will not wait for them to clarify that in ordinance or in their charter. We are a local entity that can investigate these matters. And it's clear that from other cases and other opinions, legal opinions, that we can serve that role. And if we want to go in that direction, that we will process this, I will recommend that we implement policies similar to what Inspector General have in ensuring that any whistleblower complaint maintains its confidentiality, and we put those policies and procedures in our administrative process to ensure that those maintain confidentiality. That's the position I have right now as far as how this board can go forward. I'm not waiting for any more action from the city on this matter. I do not foresee any action of the city in this matter, but we cannot continue to have this gap where the Inspector General does not have the authority to investigate complaints against the city officials and the elected and their staff, and therefore cannot afford whistleblower protection for any employee who brings an action or a complaint against the city elected officials and their staff. So I would like the next meeting to have a discussion and have a position taken by this board of us proceeding with the position that we can afford and we can act as a local entity to process whistleblower complaints, and therefore should implement policies to ensure the confidentiality of those complaints. That's my information. Mr. Kelly?
I know that this, we won't take any action today. I just would like to have a little bit of discussion about this. And, obviously, it should be clear for the record that the city council members all know they are not subject whatsoever to any whistleblower complaint by any employee who tries to make one against them. So they're safe from that right now. They must know that because we brought this up numerous times to them over and over again. And they know that's, for lack of a better word, the donut hole in the whistleblower action of the city. So they know that, and they continue to go forward without taking any action to make sure that they operate in total transparency, which would mean they would also be subject to a whistleblower complaint, like everybody else who works for the city, agents of the city. So given that, you can come to whatever assumption you want. I've got a conclusion based on that knowledge, but then my natural question would be, without them putting it in the city charter and without them putting a referendum out for the public to vote on, can we still move forward? Do we have legal means to still move forward? And if we do, I guess then that the next avenue would be for them to legally challenge us on that if they chose to do so. Does that sound right, Mr. Reed?
And I don't have the case in front of me right now, but there's a case that we've discussed numerous times out of Miami.
Right.
Where if anybody makes an issue that falls under the whistleblower statute and they make the complaint to a governmental body or board that has the ability to investigate complaints, then they trigger the whistleblower protections. So I think that we may want to begin taking the posture that we're already getting whistleblower complaints. We just don't have the administrative procedures necessary for them to exhaust their administrative remedies, which is required under law before they can go to circuit court and file a lawsuit. So previously, when the city did not have any administrative procedures, this board made the recommendation that right now, if anybody has an issue, they just run to a lawyer's office, file a lawsuit, and nothing's handled in-house. That's not efficient for the city. You should do it in-house, and they took our advice and did that within the inspector general. But now we have, if somebody were to make those complaints, they would immediately just go to circuit court. And so we would have to look at whether we can adopt our own procedures, or whether it needs to be done by the city commission. I believe it needs to be done by the city commission. So I don't think we'll be able to do that. But that doesn't negate the fact that the whistleblower complaint still is taking effect. Another option is we could possibly provide some type of notice to complainants when they send notice in to advise them of their rights. Say that you're not exhausting your administrative remedies. There are none to exhaust. Doesn't look like we're pushing them to a law firm's office. We don't want to take that posture either, but I think that we want to at least let people know that they're not out standing on their own. There are some legal protections in place. They're just not getting them through us. And that there are no administrative procedures that they're required to follow. So that's an option we may want to do. But I'd be more happy to look at whether we want to adopt something in our bylaws, which wouldn't necessarily be a legal binding administrative procedures they'd be required to exhaust. I don't think we can do that. But it might not be a bad idea for us to have our own procedure that we just follow to make sure everything's being done in a timely fashion. We have a schedule to follow. And then as far as whether we want to provide that legal notice is a decision that the board probably needs to make, whether we want to do that, what it would look like, etc. So those are my thoughts right there.
And I think that if we do move forward, and my inclination is that we do, this has to be fixed, that we also provide an avenue by which people will be aware of that. People have to know that there's avenues to come to this board if they have a whistleblower complaint against elected official in the city or any of their staff. I think that's important. So one without the other wouldn't be very effective. So that's my position.
Ms. Costa.
One, I know that our gut feeling is that this will not move any further than it did when you presented at the meeting. But because Commissioner Matlow did bite, would it behoove us at all to approach him and say, you mentioned in the city commission meeting, you may be interested in getting some more information. We are available for that information if you would like any of it to bring to the meeting.
with all respect to Commissioner Matlow, I don't think his level of persuasion is up to that game at this point. Seeing how the city commission has acted in the last few meetings, we know the divide where it is. And even Mr. Matlow, he kind of bit and spit it out because as I can see two sides of this issue. So
It seemed as if to not make waves, though.
yeah, well, I doubt he's concerned about
No,
making
overall
waves.
making waves,
Yeah.
but still.
So at this point, yeah, we can try, we can reach out to him and discuss this matter, but I think when we're talking about procedures, there's a difference between our procedures of how to process it versus administrative procedures, correct? Of them having to exhaust to bring an action against this. What if we can make a distinction between that? Because if we have, I'm talking more about the process of us accepting it and how to keep it confidential. And then there's another aspect of they have to exhaust all administrative steps before they have a cause of action.
So it would be confidential because it's an ethics complaint.
Yep.
But I don't believe we're going to be able to create an exhaustion mechanism. I think they could go to circuit court anytime they want,
Okay.
from the day they come to us, before they come to us, if they want. And I think that was the whole point we made at the city commission. We were trying to help you to avoid that.
Yeah.
Less litigation is good. But we've not gotten anywhere with that.
And as far as, our complaints will be confidential until we make a conclusion, but a whistleblower complaint, the whistleblower's name is still confidential even after conclusion of a complaint. Is that correct? I think that's one of the benefits of being a whistleblower complaint, that even after the end,
I think we'd want to look at what that trigger is and maybe massage our own internal procedures to try to make sure the timing works out the way it needs to, so we're not exposed to
Sure.
everybody prematurely.
Mhm.
But again, like, they can go to circuit court the next day anyway, so I don't know if
Yeah.
they're really.
There are a lot of things afforded to you for being whistleblower, like you don't have to be on the tax roll, we have neighbors that
Mhm.
that are protected by that, and I say the tax rolls, property.
Yeah.
Pay taxes, sorry, didn't mean to put that out there, I'm not implying my neighbors.
So I think the real issue is, it comes to your appropriate local official, they make a designation on whether you're a whistleblower or not. If you're a whistleblower, then you get those additional protections. We wouldn't have that authority to do that. They can go to court and have a judge make that determination. I think that's what the whole goal of the statute is, to try to avoid that step.
So if they bring a whistleblower complaint to us and therefore retaliated against, are they not afforded that?
I believe they could bring a retaliation claim under the whistleblower statute in circuit court.
Okay.
Because they brought a complaint to us that met
Okay.
one of the magic factors within the statute. Say, because I made this complaint to a board with the authority to investigate
Okay.
complaints.
And that's the strength of whistleblower complaint, is that you bring the complaint to us or to the inspector general, and you are somewhat shielded from any retaliation from your employer at the time. We can afford them that the grounds for them to go to circuit court and saying, I brought it to a proper, because basically in order to get that whistleblower protection, you have to follow, step 1, 2, and 3. You got to report to a proper authority. You have to, make this clear. And any retaliation took place after you made this complaint, and it was made, it's very clear in that instance. We're basically saying at this point on, going forward, we fill that role. And you have a whistleblower complaint and a retaliation does take place, you can go directly to the court, it seems, because you have met your requirement under the whistleblower statute.
I think it's important to point out, I wouldn't say, we're still receiving ethics complaints.
Yes.
We're not receiving whistleblower complaints, but it would be an ethics complaint that falls under
Yes.
one of the
Malfeasance or,
misfeasance, malfeasance, neglect of duty. Drunkenness is the one I'm always waiting to see.
yeah,
So there are cases where we can get an ethics complaint filed with us against a city commissioner that would not be one of those factors, and they would not be entitled to whistleblower.
of course, okay.
But if they said misuse of public position complaint, we
Yep.
said, well, that looks like a misfeasance or malfeasance claim, then I think you've got two things happening at once. Once that complaint's submitted to us, I think the protection is triggered.
Okay.
under state law, not under anything we do,
Gotcha.
but under state law. And then if they are fired because they filed a complaint with us, their remedy would be to go to circuit court and file a retaliation.
I just thought of something. Would there be a way that if the city commission chooses not to add this to their amended referendum, could we get or ask of a group like the Citizens for Ethics Reform to then get some sort of amendment that the people of Tallahassee sign stating that they want us to do that?
So yeah,
Is that?
it is a possibility, but the timing of it,
Okay.
we need 18,000 signatures by May or June. That's a timeline in which it has to go on the ballot. So you have to establish a political action committee and get the volunteers. And, I think it is possible, but not within anything's possible, but within a timeline between now and May or June to get the required signatures may not be enough time. 2 years, it may be
Right, I
enough
was
time to do
thinking some
that.
sort of end around. If they're not gonna take
Yeah.
action, I bet the
That's,
city
you know,
of
we-
Tallahassee people would take action.
Let's not forget, that's what we came about.
Right.
There was no action by the city. This was we
Right.
came about from a referendum, but that took a
Years.
organization that was supported financially by another, a big state, national organization that gave them the funding to get the volunteers and the staff and the state to process this, because you need 18,000 signatures, and then those signatures have at least 18,000 to meet the 14,000 requirement. Because every signature has to be verified, and I think the city, the supervisor election charges you 25 cents per signature
Oh, well.
to verify those signatures in order to get on the ballot. So yes, it adds up. You need money, and you need the staff, you need the time. So something to consider. We cannot push that on this board. If somebody wants to do that, they can, but there is time and money involved in that process. Yeah, and I was saying in the meantime, as far as for next meeting, if, I don't know, John, you can lay out clearly, as you did today, what the whistleblower protection, how that process works, how we are currently serving that role when ethics complaints come in, and if those meet certain requirements, they may trigger whistleblower protection for those employees. And one recommendation would be to implement certain policies that would mirror that of the Inspector General when processing whistleblower protection. Is that something?
Well, put that together.
Okay. And I think again, it's like we do with the blueprint. We're not waiting for them to take action. We just declare it ourselves. We have the authority to process complaints against city commissioners who serve on blueprint when it's an action, a complaint that falls within our purview, regardless of where they serve or what they're doing. Similar to this, we have the authority to process ethics complaints that if they reach the complaint is alleging violations under the whistleblower protection statute, that they're afforded whistleblower protection when they file that complaint. And clarify that what we were asking the city was to provide administrative process that would have been to the benefit of the city had they established administrative process. That currently, without the administrative process in place, these individuals who bear whistleblower protection can go directly to circuit court, which may expose the city to more litigation that is necessary to address this matter.
I think you're 100% correct. There's not going to be further action. I actually went and watched. I thought your presentation was great. And my recollection was the one commissioner teed up the idea of, do we want to discuss whether this is a topic that we want to later discuss throwing into the charter amendments? And they looked down the panel and it was crickets, and they said, nobody wants to talk about it, next issue. So there was no interest in discussing the topic of adding it to the charter to be discussed. So with that, if there is anything that can be done unilaterally, I think it's a great idea. One idea I had was, when somebody files their complaint with us, could there be a checkbox on that front page that says, are you seeking whistleblower protection from this organization or another? Basically just a way for those to be delineated on the form where it's like, oh, I'm not only am I an employee, I'm trying to remain secret, I'm trying to take that protection. Could it just be something they check on our complaint form to kind of proceed through a different path where at least it gets looked at for confidentiality and everything else?
See, it makes a requirement, because of different laws, they meet the requirements for this, and it's something.
Well, I'll look at all options.
Okay.
Bring as much as I can. We cafeteria style, we'll lay it on.
It's a little buffet, perfect.
Two additional questions. I know the Miami case, not as well as you know it. But are you telling us that Miami is just like that? Us, they have an ethics board that the city commission chose not to empower to handle whistleblower complaints, and they have the same donut hole in their whistleblower protection that we do? No, it's not. Okay, how is it similar?
Well, that case, what happened?
The AG said they could go by ordinance.
Well, no, it was the District Court of Appeal.
Okay.
So they, if I remember correctly, so they have a commission on ethics countywide that has jurisdiction on the county and all of the cities. They're huge.
Huge, yeah.
So they got plenty of jurisdiction and they do whistleblower with the inspector general, they do it all. What in this case happened is somebody came to a public meeting and during the public comment section went up to the microphone and made a complaint about what was happening to him. He was later retaliated against. He filed suit. The suit was dismissed at summary judgment because they said he failed to exhaust administrative remedies. They later came back and said because the city commission is the city commission, they have the authority to do anything. They had the authority to investigate that he triggered that protection. He was entitled to stay reversed. Okay. Appeal. So that's kind of the case that we've relied on instead of the fourth BCA, but it's really the only case that I've found statewide that really kind of goes to that issue.
So our situation, as you know, doesn't exist anywhere else in the state based on your research.
I don't believe so. No.
Okay. Then the next question is, do you know if there are cases where someone went directly because they had no other avenue directly to court and the court granted them whistleblower protection immediately? Or can you research that?
I can research that.
Does that exist? It makes sense that they could, because they can do whatever they want, right? But are there existing cases where they have actually granted a person whistleblower protection?
I think, soon they might seek some, we got an expert in the room, but I don't know if you want to push out the spot, but yeah, I think you might seek declaratory relief in your complaint. Have declared whistleblower, have multiple claims, but a separate retaliation claim. But I don't think you are going to get the shield that you would under the administrative procedures of the process where the word goes out to everyone, don't touch this person, they're under our protection. Here, you've got to go to court. You really don't have that protection, but you at least get back what you're going to lose. That's correct. I think that's the big.
And that's even makes our situation more critical that we do something.
Yeah.
Do I need to make a motion to make this guy do that report or just tell him to do it?
Just tell them to do it.
Just do it.
Sure.
And just for the record, I want to thank Carlos for going to the meeting and remaining vigilant on this issue. This is a very important issue. It really is. And I'm just blown away. I'm totally blown away that an elected public official would know that this is out there and doesn't want to do anything about it. I don't understand that. Transparency is so important for all of us.
And what he did say is, I submitted it as an action item. It got changed. Because I submitted it as an action item. I also suggested it be 2 items, but they insisted on it being 1 item.
Because they even specifically said, since this is not an action item, nothing needs to be done on it. Because they even made that comment, which that burns my biscuit a little bit.
I feel like the decision was made before it was even in the agenda.
Yeah. Any,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
No, that was good.
Yeah, just as a question, we seem to have a lot of things coming up where we're deferring to other bodies like the Florida Commission on Ethics. If somebody was to hand us something, whether it be evidence or a complaint, is it ever within our purview to either vote to forward it on or vote to, as an independent board, file our own Florida Commission on Ethics complaints? It's probably a deep charter question for us that hopefully we'll never have to deal with, but.
I mean, we do refer things out. We do have specific issues that we are actually required under our bylaws to send out if it involves law enforcement, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the State Attorney's Office. Commission on Ethics also falls into those categories where if we get something that's in their jurisdiction, we're going to take it up first before we act on it. So.
Isn't that what Dwight pretty much does when the complaint first comes in? He makes a determination.
Yeah, that would be
And if it doesn't fall under jurisdiction, he does refer him.
Yeah, what I was talking about is the difference between referring the person or the independent ethics board's votes to have the independent ethics board be the complainant to the other body, to say, we are the independent ethics board of Tallahassee, something was reported to us. It's not within our purview, but here is the evidence, and we are decided to make a complaint to your body.
He's talking about 282.
And we
And I'm not asking for it, I'm just throwing it out there.
yeah, because we have to file, they don't accept anonymous, the others file sworn complaints, so it'd be us as a board filing a sworn complaint with the Commission on Ethics in Florida. Like, we accept anonymous complaints, but we can't do that for the Florida Commission on Ethics, so that's something to consider.
It's certainly not in our bylaws, it's not something we've even discussed previously.
Okay.
It's a very interesting concept. It might be something that could be handled kind of like what we do now.
Okay.
If we get an anonymous complaint, the board decides they want to be the complainant moving forward, direct the chair to sign on behalf of the board
Okay.
for a sworn complaint. That might be an option. I'd have to research into whether the Commission on Ethics would accept it.
Sure.
But that's something worth looking into.
Do you want, I could give you to the new year for a new chairman to consider that? Yeah.
Do you want to do?
Right.
That was smooth.
I almost got away with it. So,
Yeah.
um,
Give me enough time to research it. I don't want to rush to research.
I say whistleblower is I think our
Yeah, that's my,
priority, but then if the other happens, then.
How about at the next meeting, I'll tell you whether I'm ready or not.
sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good.
You want to talk op-eds, the op-eds?
Oh, yeah, so. And you mentioned how we get this information out there. I was thinking, working with my staff here, drafting an op-ed, positive one, saying, giving assurance to the city residents that when it comes to matters that come before the blueprint and when it comes to whistleblower complaints, that there is coverage. So the city independent ethics board can be a source to resolve those issues. And it was more of a positive saying, all the good things we've done, giving credit to the city commission on the measures they did pass that expanded our jurisdiction. And even though we did not come to an agreement on certain issues, we can still operate in the capacity that we were created for. That's something I would like to push out there, hopefully before the end of the year, as a little positive message on what we've accomplished and going forward, what we can do for the city.
I think it's a great idea. That's been on my mind too. I just didn't know if we could do that, but I certainly think Carlos Ray's name on that in the,
That would be my only thing, is if you wanted backing, I would want to read it first,
Of
but
course.
then you may,
sure.
it may be something that I would say either all or just you, but that if we all are in agreement with it,
Right.
then it kind of
Just tell
comes
us
from
what
the
it's
ethics board.
Yeah.
But it can say written by you or whatever, just to even give more support. I would be in favor of potentially putting my name on there too, if that's something that, but if you felt more like it had more leverage coming truly from the chairs, kind of just giving a report, basically, kind of like how Dwight gives us a report at the meetings, then I think that it could be delivered that way as well. So
I would suggest taking it a step further. We should do that, but the more it gets out there, the better. And let's be honest, the paper is not read by a lot of people. So it's great, it'll hit a very small audience. And I don't know what avenue this would be because I don't watch much local TV, but I do know there are public information shows on TV locally all the time that generally inform the public. And I would say we could charge Dwight to take this whole discussion to a forum on TV locally that people can be watching and say, hey, here's where we are on this issue. These are avenues afforded to you by the Ethics Commission. So just to hit another avenue, and I guess if we did do an editorial, that could also be posted on our website for people to see anytime they went to it, which would be another way. But I think getting it out there as much as possible. If we're going to go down this and make this available to them as an option on whistleblower, I think we should market it as much as we can so people know, because they don't know. People really, I think most people don't know this hole exists. They really don't. They assume, well, we elect these officials. Of course they would want to protect the people, somebody complain against them.
So,
And I wanna make sure you know that he looks just as good on TV as he does.
Good or bad?
I know, yeah.
So, yeah, and he does love to talk, so.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to push.
Should have seen the presentation.
Yes.
It's quite a show.
Well, I was getting some points in, and I think I did.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think really we want this to be positive.
Yes,
I think right now at a time where confidence in our elected officials is at an all-time low nationally, we'll let people know that, I think, give this, give them credit. They've worked with us in the past. They've given us these tools, and we have the tools to make sure that the public good is being done. And this is PAC, Blueprint, CRA, an opportunity to protect yourself under whistleblower statute.
What if we came back with a full plan that include the op-ed and include social media? Because I'd already started on social media. I created a YouTube page. And getting ready to, I was trying to decide between Twitter, since it's so political now, and Threads, which seems to be an alternative that's not so political. But even things, I think that we need to be more aggressive in stating why we're relevant even.
I agree.
And so I'm working on a video now that's saying, it's explaining the importance of ethics in relation to democracy, and not just this, but because, when I taught it to the class, the graduate class, then I realized that there's a whole lot more to this than just taking complaints and doing ethics training. But when you talk about public trust, it's about doing the things that people can trust. And so I think, and we're part of the checks and balances for that. And so I think we need to do more to get our understanding of what our role is out to the public. And we can do that to some extent through social media. We can do that through op-eds. He can do an op-ed. I can do an op-ed at general. And we can do different things. We can do different things. We can do, yeah. We trade stuff, but we can become more assertive, and we try being diplomatic, and I feel like the diplomatic queen, and we've done all the diplomatic stuff, and they're taking advantage of our kindness. And so I think it's time to just be more assertive, but we wish we can work on bringing something back with a full plan on how we can approach.
Let's do that.
So make sure you include Telemundo on there.
Any other directives?
Can you pull it up?
Oh, any public comments on non-agenda items?
No.
No.
Before you go, she was gonna pull up.
You're not gonna make us watch your video, are you?
Oh, God.
No,
Hey, you're excited.
nobody talks more than him. Okay, this is what we've done for
Yeah.
Facebook, and can you scroll up?
So you got back control of Facebook, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that particular one is the annual report, scroll up. This is just an introduction, corruption versus accountability, and so it talks about accountability, and it's very short video, and scroll up.
You look much younger than
I know.
Yeah, go down a little bit, right there. And then that is actually Carlos' presentation that Carlos did. So we started with that, and then on YouTube, we have a YouTube channel. And so some of these videos are actually on the YouTube channel. So as we work on things, we can start to communicate with the public by producing our own statements. So
Should we put on there, well, I guess not. I was gonna say Ernie's resignation, because I think his rationale for the resignation, like, or put something, the ethics board, I don't know. Probably without his permission, no, but I don't know. I was thinking the relevance behind his reason for stepping down, I think is key to a lot of the stuff we're talking about. But maybe not.
Is that resignation public record? We don't need
Tells
the city's
Democrats.
permission to put it up on our website.
It's already out there.
On
Okay.
YouTube.
Yeah.
I think what you're doing here is you're linking to it, you're trimming the link to it.
Right,
Right.
correct.
Yes.
Because I agree with you. I thought that was very, very well done.
Yeah, that was the idea. When she mentioned the idea of putting that up there, we could possibly do something thanking him for his service.
Yeah.
And then,
That's a good idea. Thank him for his service.
service.
And
Yes,
and
something.
encapsulate what
Yes.
his resignation within that.
And could we link to whatever you said the city is doing applications for the seat? So could we also say, if you're interested in
Double it.
serving on the Independent Ethics Board, you're looking at the face, you're one of the 8 people looking at our Facebook page, you might be. So here's the link to the city's thing where you can apply to be the member.
I think we have 31 followers. I mean,
Yeah, we got,
27 likes.
yeah, we have.
I'll do it later. I'll do it.
Yeah, but that's Dwight's family. What about other?
Yeah.
And that's his nuclear.
That would be too few.
I know, are we allowed to like the page? Is that fine?
Yeah. Take a like.
But I just want to show you that.
Great idea.
So
Good
you
job.
so you know what we're working on.
Good job.
Good. There are comments,
Sure.
directives? Mr. Kelly moves, Ms. Costa seconds, we adjourn.
Great. Okay, December 19th, I will see you.